afternoon, everyone. This is your Sew What Seamstress Crafty Sue, and covering embroidery boo boos, basically. I'm not perfect. I have my days, good and bad, just like anybody else. Well, I have this embroidery project going on with sweatshirts, and they do have some stretch. I remembered to get adhesive backed stabilizer for the embroidery project. Just didn't place it all the way where I needed to, positioned out where I want the lettering to go. That was all good. Almost forgot you got to turn it inside out so you can lay the fusible um, stabilizer on it. That fits on there nice. That's to keep it from stretching as the machine stitches. That's all good. What I didn't realize was my stitching is here and my stabilizer's down there. That's step number one. When you turn it inside out, put it extra, where you think, because once you get it in the machine, sometimes you position it different, and I didn't realize I was positioning it a little higher than what I had. So when you don't lay your stabilizer out quite right, what happens is you get bunched up stitches because the machine's going so fast and it's trying to stitch and it starts bunching things up and it starts stretching, and then you get this crooked letter. Well, that's never going to do. Fortunately, you're going to catch it on the first letter or design, that little part of the design you're doing. You're going to see the material start to stretch and it's going to be kind of crooked. So a lot of people think that to fix that, to start over, you take a seam ripper or a small pair of curl tipped, which like applique type scissors, and you cut the stitches on top. No, don't do that. You have a tendency and a very real possibility of accidentally cutting the fabric that doesn't want to be cut, because then you don't have a way of patching it, except maybe to embroider over top of it like a mending stitch. And then it doesn't look right on the back side. So you don't want to do that. So what you do is, and I kept it on the hoop just for the fact that it keeps it taut for me to work with it. And on the back side, you see the red from the lettering that shows, and then there's your bobbin thread, the white thread underneath. I started out with the fat end because this has two size seam rippers. It has a heavier one, and then this other one that's a little longer, a little thinner, and a little pointier. And you take your time. Whatever you do, take your time. And what you do is you find those white stitches on the back, and you slowly, just a couple at a time, seam rip them up to cut them. And as you cut those, that's what loosens up the top threads on top. That way, all you have to do is take, with this one, I love this little honeycomb shaped end. This, I can just rub on those stitches and pull them out. I don't have to sit there with my fingernails and try to do it, or do it with tweezers. All I have to do is rub it with this. So I am on the back side and I'm finding all those little white stitches, making sure that you don't catch any of the fabric. Any loose thread, just put it to the side. Just grab a white bobbin, just the bobbin thread, only the bobbin thread on the back side. You want to catch that up and make sure that's the only thing that you're cutting on the back with your seam ripper. And once you get enough of these, it'll just start pulling out through the whole design, and you can start over, which is what I'm going to be doing, because I did not realize I positioned it a little bit higher than I was originally planning on doing. And when I saw it start to snag up, I got all upset, and I go, wait a minute, I know how to fix it. It just takes a little doing. So I'm going to show you, once you've snipped enough of these back stitches on the back, the bobbin thread, all the rest of it will just come out. I'm going to show you that just as soon as I get to this one little spot that's kind of thick, because this was a satin stitch design, so that was really upsetting. But as you snip the bobbin stitches, all of a sudden it separates, and the fabric that's all bunched up comes loose, and it lays nice and flat. So I've got one more spot back here to do this. So don't panic when your embroidery machine is doing its job and you forget, oh, I should have put an extra larger piece of stabilizer on the back of my project. And otherwise you're going to end up with this kind of mess. It's a learning experience. It's a new kind of stabilizer I've never used before. It's a sulky brand and it dissolves. It says it dissolves. It keeps your material stabilized so that you can do the embroidery. But then when you go to wash it, it disappears, and then all you have is the stitches left. I think that's fabulous. I can't wait to see this little disappearing act. So now I'm going to turn this to the right side out to the top where you see all the messed up red stitches there. And I'm going to rub this little guy on there to pull those loose and pull them out. Be able to pull them out. And yeah, I'm using my fingernails, but that's because it's a lot of stitches. This was over 1,200 stitches in this one little thing. But you're going to see that I'm able to get all of this thread out. Of course, it makes a mess. I end up having to use my vacuum cleaner a lot more, to my husband's chagrin, and pull that loose one off the top there because it's really knotted in there. And rub that on there one more time. Yeah, that loosens it up really well. I love that. And then sometimes it'll be, because it's bunched up, it'll be a little tighter. And you just go to the back side and get the rest of that bobbin thread that's keeping it from coming out. But this, it was a letter D. And I'm able to actually just pull some of these out just from the top. Just kind of yank it through. And then go to the side. And then up, as you can see, get some of this off of here. Just like this, where it was all bunched together and that was solid before. Now you see it's not there anymore. So what I will do is, once I get all these stitches out, I will get another piece of the fusible disappearing interfacing and put an additional piece over top of this. And that way, when I go to, actually, I'm just going to probably soak it in a gentle cycle and see if it'll actually disappear on me. I could use regular stabilizer, but then there's a lot of trimming away. I've had the thicker ones that say they do dissolve, that they're water soluble. They're not totally. I haven't found the thicker ones. They do, but it takes several washings. And this is very thin, but it keeps it from stretching. And that's the important part, that it keeps it from stretching, so that I get a nice flat design embroidered onto here. And got one little one spot that's kind of a little extra tight, probably when it was shifting around trying to gather it up, and that's probably why it's doing that. But when I can just see the bobbin thread back here, I can snip one of those, then the rest is going to come out just fine. So turn it the other way, inside and outside. I could take it out of this frame, but if I do, I'm going to lose where I've got it marked as far as being centered. So I'm leaving it in there. That's the other thing. If you take it out, then you got to reposition it and all that. If you want to do that, you can. I don't have the time to do that with this particular project, and I wouldn't want to. It's too much of a hassle. I can put on the other piece of fusible, water-soluble stabilizer without a problem. And slowly but surely, this is all coming out very nicely. Some of it's a little because looks like I accidentally double stitched this one area. So it's taking me a little bit longer. Done. So I'm going to brush this on the front. I'm going to take it to the back and do the same thing. Loosen those stitches up. See, now I'm fighting with the stitches on the back that are actually in the fusible stabilizer. I keep wanting to say interfacing. It's not interfacing. Stabilizer. There it goes. This one little corner is like, I don't want to go. So I just have to take my time, nice and slow. Only snipping the bobbin thread, which is the white underneath. And get that little stubborn thing out of there. And I'll rub it with my fingers on the other side to get it to do its thing. And there it goes. So I will do over top of this and fix that right up. So that's how you fix a boo-boo like this. You just gotta take your time. And I really needed to have my scissors, but just kind of cut that little string off of there and redo it. And as you can see, the threads are coming out. And I saved it. So if you learned anything from this video, and I know that, I've had this happen once before, but I'd never done a sweatshirt. It was always like some other stretchy fabric. But so there is a way to save it. Just make sure that you put a big enough piece of your fusible stabilizer on the back, and you won't have this problem like I did. So if you've learned anything, give me a little thumbs up. Gives me a little smiley face. Leave a comment or two if you like. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then please definitely subscribe. This is Crafty Sue, and I'm your Sew What seamstress.